And a second day of meetings set to begin between the New York City Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani and more than 100 executives. It's been organized by the Partnership for New York City, the group planning to meet with sitting mayor Eric Adams tomorrow. And joining us right now, someone who spent some time with that nominee yesterday and a whole bunch of other CEOs, Kathryn Wylde, President and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so take us inside the room. I know there was a million different questions asked about everything from anti-Semitism to taxes to how many freebies can be given away. What was the outcome in terms of the feeling in the room when it was over?
I think everyone walked away thinking that he was the most impressive candidate they have seen in generations. He's very compelling, charming, smart young man, and gives you a sense of he's honest, means what he says. So and he's full of hope.
Okay, so here's my question though. There were, in terms of the reporting that I saw on this, a lot of folks who thought he was charming and a great candidate. Clearly, he's a good candidate in that he was able to attract a huge base and could speak in a way that attracted a group of people to vote for him. Having said that, there was also a sense, at least from some of the reporting that I saw and folks that I talked to, that a lot of the people in the business community might have thought he was charming, but fundamentally disagreed with his underlying views of how to attack the city's problems.
Totally. You didn't let me finish. That was my butt.
Okay.
No, he's clearly totally inexperienced. They raised the issue of, you know, it's a city of 300,000 people. It's a very complicated management experience. What have you done? What's prepared you? He said, well, I'd surround myself with good people and follow the Mike Bloomberg principle of letting them do their job. That was a good answer, but I don't think it was it made up for the lack of experience. And on policy issues, you know, he's sourcing from sources that they don't believe in terms of the fiscal realities, the tax impacts, et cetera.
And did he hold firm? Did you feel like he on those views? Did you think that there was a flexibility to his perspectives?
I don't think he would. What he said was he wouldn't be flexible on his basic values, but he was eager to learn. He seemed to want to say, I'm open to learning, to better understanding. And he said, importantly, because I think this is important, I think we all agree the challenges facing the city, he nailed it. Affordability and et cetera. The fact that he said he was going to stick with his values, but he was willing to learn and to figure out how to, if there are other ways to achieve his goals. Right. The example was freeze the rent. Well, he said, well, I would look at reform of property taxes. And obviously, property taxes are 30% of the rent in rent-regulated buildings. So he did express some openness to look at other ways of solving the problem than just raising taxes. One
of the things I hear often from CEOs in this city is the worry about anti-Semitism in the city. And I know that he was asked about his refusal, at least publicly on Meet the Press, I think over 3 times he was asked a question, to condemn this phrase, globalize the Intifada. What did he say to your group?
He described how he had learned what that meant and how frightening that was to a young Jewish woman, and that he said he was not going to use it and use the phrase again, and that he would discourage others from using it.
And do you think that discourage is the same as condemn?
No, I don't think it's the same.
Does that concern you, or did that concern others in the room? I know that Alba Berla, obviously is Jewish, runs Pfizer, is on the board of the partnership.
Absolutely concerns them. Absolutely.
And was that expressed? I mean, was this
Yes, and no, it was expressed in great detail. The concerns were expressed in great detail.
And but no movement on that front in your mind?
I would say he said that he would definitely oppose. He realized the problem of anti-Semitism had become enormous, and that he would do everything he could to bring people together to try and fight that. So that was the tenor of the response.
What kind of answers did he provide, to the extent that people said, look, you may have all of these ideas, but these ideas, you, given what your role is as a mayor, can't necessarily effectuate. Did he speak to that idea? Meaning that there's a whole bunch of things he can do.
No,
he can deal with rent control, or he can go after rent control if he wants to. It's harder for him to raise taxes, for example, without the help of Albany.
Those are the kind of points that our members were making to him. So,
and how did he respond to those points?
There was a good back and forth discussion. I think the main purpose of the meeting was to introduce the winner of the Democratic primary to the members. Our organization does not endorse in political races. We don't take political positions one way or the other on individual candidates. So this was strictly a get-to-know-the-candidate conversation. And I would say that they, I doubt it changed many minds, but I think it lowered the temperature instead in terms of fear.
I thought you were, I don't know, you don't endorse, but last time you were on, I thought you were sort of thinking that the alternative to this candidate would be Mayor Adams.
Well, Mayor Adams is the incumbent mayor, yeah.
He is? No, I know that. But as far as who you would like to drop out if there were... See, you're in a position where you got to CYA because this guy might be mayor. I understand that. But who has the most viable chance of beating Mamdani? Andrew Cuomo or Mayor Adams? And will either one of them ever consider dropping out? Because
well, it depends on what happens between now and then, because the election is not until November. So that's a question, and that's the question that Governor Cuomo has said. Well, let's see who's winning in September. So I think.
You think one of them will drop out?
I do not. I'd be very surprised.
Well, you better be sucking up the money. You're doing the right thing.
What have the latest polls that you've seen shown? What are your odds, I would say, of
that Mamdani is substantially ahead of the pack than Cuomo, but Cuomo just finished a $30 million campaign, and Eric hasn't started his campaign, so who knows?
Let me ask you about security in the city. One of the things that obviously I think a lot of business leaders have been thinking about is policing in the city and the like. I think there's a lot of people who like the current commissioner of the police. Did you get a sense that he would keep her in that role? I mean, there's been sort of questions about whether he would want to, not want to, given some of the comments he's made historically about policing in the city.
Well, that question did come up, and he said what he has said publicly for the last week, which was that he was definitely consider keeping Jessie Tisch in the commissioner role. That was with her father sitting in the front row of the meeting. So, I think his position is he's open, but it was no commitment.
Right. I have a question, by the way, this is separate and apart from this. Do you believe that Eric Adams' role in this city, when it comes to police, by the way, the police record under her, but also under him, has actually been quite good. I mean, in terms of
it's excellent.
It's excellent. Doesn't get a lot of credit for that. The other thing that's fascinating in this city is, in terms of ICE raids and National Guards running around, we don't have that in this city right now. We do have it in LA and other parts of the country, and there is a question mark about why that is, and whether that's a function actually of this mayor's relationship with the city, with the president of the United States, rather. I say that because we all, some people say Eric Adams is a hostage of the president, but in some cases you could look and say, well, if he's being kidnapped, whatever relationship he has might actually have been helping keep the city from turning into, some kind of National Guard, ICE raid situation.
Well, I think you're understating the role that Governor Hochul has played in working with President Trump to try and keep a lid on the ICE presence. Although there are disturbing trends now, ICE has gotten a huge windfall of funds in the big, beautiful bill, and so they haven't had the resources to go into.
So you think they're coming to New York next?
I would not take any comfort in thinking they're not coming here. I think what stands between us and them at this moment is Governor Hochul.